Hi guys, Mrs. Hirschberger here again. Last time we talked, we looked at the explorers coming from England, France, and Spain. Today we're going to be looking at the colonial settlements for England. There are other settlements and other storylines for Spain and France. However, this class is United States history, and so we are going to focus on the English colonies because they are what will ultimately become the United States of America. So when I mean colonial settlements, we're looking at the first forts, the very first groups of people that arrive, very small. We'll be looking at 5 examples here in a second. Also, the colonies that we're going to be looking at today are settled for either one of two reasons. They are either settled for religious freedom or economic purposes, plans to make money. So let's go ahead and look at our first English colonial settlement. It's going to be Roanoke Island. Roanoke Island is down in the Outer Banks. This was supposed to be the first Jamestown. Like Jamestown, it was settled in a swampy area, and they did not bring enough supplies. It is known as the Lost Colony because when they realized they were running out of supplies, the captain went back to England to pick up another set of supplies. However, when he gets there, England and Spain were having a war, and he couldn't get a ship to come back across the Atlantic. When he finally does, it's years later, and no one is there. It's almost as if they've vanished into thin air. The only clue that was left behind was the name of the local tribe carved into a tree, Croatoan. Now, historians do not agree if they died of starvation, disease, exposure, violence, or if they assimilated, which is a big word for blended with the American Indians. Again, none of the people were ever heard from again. Historians do not know for sure. It was established as an economic venture, a plan to make money. It does not, because it stopped existing. Let's move on to the next one. Jamestown, you're probably more familiar with. It is the first permanent English settlement. They cannot say they are the first settlement because there are French and Spanish settlements older than Jamestown. They also cannot say they are the first English settlement because Roanoke existed. So they have to content themselves with saying the first permanent English settlement. The date you need to know has a little star next to it. It is 1607. This was an economic venture by the Virginia Company of London. The Virginia Company of London, like Microsoft, Samsung, Apple, or Tesla, is just that, a company. They are, instead of making cars, phones, and TVs, they instead get natural resources, things from nature, from other parts of the world, and bring them back to Europe to sell. They're very good at this. This will become a problem in 150 years when the colonies have grown and they decide they want to have voting rights in the British Parliament. Great Britain is what the new name for England becomes in that time period. And they want to have voting rights, and Great Britain says, no, you're just a plan to make money. You don't need to have voting rights. And spoiler alert, there's going to be a war about that, Revolutionary War. However, they do make a lot of money. The economic venture, the plan to make money works. They are growing cash crops, or what I like to call money plants. In 1614, they are growing so much tobacco, they are growing it in the streets. Part of this reason is because they are using leaves as currency. So imagine if you had a $20 bill that you could grow in your backyard. You'd plant it everywhere. Additionally, they're not planting food, and in the beginning, just like at Roanoke, they do run out of food, leading to the starving time, where Jamestown is almost wiped out. But again, they do rally, come back, and will have about 15 years of prominent success, where they are the leading tobacco producers. And at that time period, tobacco was only outvalued by one other crop, and that was sugar. So it was exceptionally valuable, made a tremendous amount of money. Moving to the north, we have Plymouth and Massachusetts Bay colonies. Now, Plymouth, both are what we know as Massachusetts. Plymouth is going to be settled by separatists from the Church of England who want to escape religious persecution. You can see I've underlined persecution. The best way I can explain this to middle school language is that it's like extreme bullying, where someone is picked on, possibly thrown in jail, hurt, or even killed for what they believe in. England has an official religion, the Church of England, and they did not have freedom of religion. People who did not follow that official religion were not treated kindly. Separatists were another group, another religion that were fleeing or running away from the Church of England. Both of these groups are Christian, or versions of Christianity, but they don't get along. You'll learn more about the origins of Christianity in World History 1. You'll learn about all the origins of all of the major religions in World History 1 as well. But for our purposes, you just need to know that there were several forms of Christianity, and because of the conflict, groups are having to come to North America for safety. I've underlined the Y here, right here. The top of the Y is separated. That is a little memory trick for you to remember that the separatists are the ones coming to Plymouth. Down at the bottom, you'll see that Massachusetts Bay is settled by Puritans for the same reason as Plymouth. So again, trying to escape religious persecution. Quakers in Pennsylvania are another group also fleeing for religious reasons. The Quakers were led by a guy named William Penn, who we'll call the colony Pennsylvania. They will want to have their freedom to practice their faith without interference. Again, they are another version of Christianity. They are more tolerant than the other groups. And so Pennsylvania is the first place in North America where we have religious freedom or freedom of religion. You could worship a purple dinosaur and Pennsylvania would accept you, which was not true for all of the other colonies. Also, you might be familiar with William Penn and his picture because they start growing oats. And you might be familiar with the brand Quaker Oats. And they have a picture of William Penn, the Quaker, on there. I should also point out that the three religious colonies, Plymouth, Massachusetts Bay, and Pennsylvania, actually survive better. Even though they're in the north, they have a much greater survival rate than Jamestown. 75% of everyone who goes to Jamestown dies in the first 3 months. Pennsylvania, Massachusetts Bay, and Plymouth, not so much. Because they are settled for religious reasons, they bring entire families. They don't leave behind members of the family like Jamestown. Jamestown's just a plan to make money. People go there, and then with the hopes of coming back to England. Pennsylvania, Plymouth, and Massachusetts Bay, they will bring children, they will bring grandparents, and this generational knowledge. They know what to do when someone gets sick, and they know how to manage food, so they survive better. Our last colonial settlement is going to be Georgia. This is settled for economic reasons by debtors. It is settled by people who had been in debtors' prisons for not paying their bills. They wanted to live and have economic freedom in the New World, where they could pay off their bills and then start a new life. Now, I should add that we are going to be taking a closer look at other settlements in class, but these 5 are the ones that you need to know for your test.